All right, everybody, I just wanted to go through the quiz with you real fast. I'm hoping that this is a pretty slick way of going through it so that you can kind of fast forward through the questions that you got correct and really targeting on the ones that you did not get correct so you can understand why. Because sometimes that takes a long time in class. So let's see if we can do this. So for number one, why had Odysseus not returned home from the Trojan War? The correct answer is C, because he angered the gods. And we talked about that a little bit in class because remember there was that scene where after the Trojan War, then he had figured out the Trojan horse deal, and then he went out to the sea and he yelled at Poseidon and said, "I don't need you. I did this all by myself." So that's where that comes from. And then number two, which of the following is not an ally of Odysseus? It seemed like if people missed this one, they probably missed this word right here. Is not an ally. Or in some cases, they weren't sure what the word ally meant. So you'd have to go ahead and look that up. But the correct answer is actually Polyphemus, which is the Cyclops. So Hermes helped him. Oh, sorry about that. Hermes helped him later on in the story, and at this point, you probably didn't even know about Hermes. Oh no, actually, he came up in Calypso too, and then Athena was one that kind of gave him guidance. Elpenor is one of his crewmates, and then Polyphemus is the Cyclops. Okay, so number three. Why is it necessary for Odysseus to take some of his men by force from the land of the Lotus Eaters? And the correct answer is D. The lotus contained a magical drug that made them want to stay and eat more. And talked a little bit about that in class on Tuesday/Wednesday, and about how really it's the lotus eater. The lotus is almost like a symbol for a drug of sorts. And if you go back and look at the text, it actually says that they just lost all hope for home, so he had to tie them up. Okay. So let me fix this typo right there because that's driving me crazy. Number four, while Odysseus' men want to steal the Cyclops' cheeses and animals and depart immediately, Odysseus wishes to see what the caveman had to offer. Considering Odysseus' character, and that's key, considering his character, what might he be hoping the Cyclops will offer? Okay, so this one was a little bit tricky for people. And it might be because of some of the discussions that we had in class. Really, we took either A, an exciting challenge, because we knew that Odysseus, he was all about a challenge. So I could see where you'd say, hey, that's his character. So I accepted A. And then B, a faster ship, not really. That wasn't part of the issue. But if you have that answer and you have textual evidence to support that, and I missed it, my gosh, come on in, I'll look for it. A place to stay, that was something we kind of talked about in class too, about Xenia and how about the hospitality. So I accepted C or A. A military ally, the war was over. He just wanted to get home. So really that wasn't part of the deal. So I accepted C or A for that one. So I will highlight both that one in red and this one in red. All right, so number five. Why does Poseidon's hatred for Odysseus grow after he leaves Polyphemus' island? Well, the correct answer is this one, is D, because Odysseus blinded his son. And if you look back at the text, we get hints that he's the son, and I believe we talked about that in class. But even if you didn't hear it in class, it was in there. Really, Odysseus, there's no evidence that he doesn't respect the sea. And his men don't really attack Poseidon. And Odysseus tricked Poseidon with a disguise? Not really. That comes later on where he tries to trick people with a disguise, but it's definitely not Poseidon. So really, the answer for number five is D. Odysseus blinded Poseidon's son. So he got a little bit even more angry. Number six, what trait does Odysseus demonstrate by lying about his name to the Cyclops? Really, the best answer is going to be creativity. Ruthlessness means cruelty, and yes, it wasn't necessarily nice that he poked him in the eye, but the question is saying about lying about his name. Lying about your name isn't necessarily ruthless. So that's kind of where you have to focus in on that. It doesn't really show loyalty, because who's he really being loyal to by lying about his name? Creativity is kind of interesting because he says his name is Nobody. And so then when the Cyclops, is yelling out, "Nobody stabbed me," or "Nobody poked me in the eye," that's where that creativity comes in. Cleverness might be another word for it. Stubbornness, he's really not being stubborn. What was he being stubborn about, I guess? Okay, so number 7. What is the meaning of Polyphemus's words in the following line? "Let him lose all companions and return under strange sail to bitter days at home." Okay, so this one, the answer is C. Now, it's kind of an interesting question, I think. I like this question because you really have to kind of narrow it down. Okay, so let's look at letter A. Let Odysseus return home with his companions. Well, no. You get that in the first few lines, or the first few words. Let him lose all companions. So cross off A, because no. B, Odysseus will sail home under a strange sail. Well, that's part of it. So we got the back part. So strange sail would be a sail that's not his own. So maybe that's a part of it. That might be kind of it's called a red herring, kind of to lead you off the track a little bit. C, let Odysseus return home alone and troubled. Now here's the key on this one. In the first part it says lose all companions. So that's where you get the alone part. Troubled comes back to the bitter days at home. Alone goes back to under a strange sail. Let me rephrase that. Alone goes to that first part. Troubled will be to bitter days at home. So it will be upset, or it's bad when he gets home. And then D, curse Odysseus with a difficult journey home. Yeah, I can see where that one, but both of those, C and D, are both about a difficult journey home, whereas C is more specific. So, and the reason, and those are the ones that students get kind of, a little bit upset about. What typically happens in pre-AP and AP type questions, you can pretty much eliminate 2. Like we can eliminate A and B. And then you're left with C and D. And you look at them and you go, well, okay, one is general and one is specific. Typically, you go with the more specific one, because that's narrowing it down a little bit. And that's not a Makovsky deal, that is an AP deal. And so I just want to kind of get you prepared for that. So that's kind of where that comes from. So, and a lot of people, it was between C and D if people got that one wrong for the most part. Unless if you didn't read, then maybe you chose A or something. Okay, number 8. What does Odysseus compare the Cyclops to in the following lines? And caught 2 in his hands like squirming puppies to beat their brains out, splattering the flow. Then he dismembered them and made his meal, gapping and crunching like a mountain lion. Okay, so you got to figure out who is he actually referring to. Okay, so the question says he compares the Cyclops to what? Now, a lot of students, this is interesting, a lot of the students chose a squirming puppy because I think maybe they saw that in that first line. But really the answer is B. It's a wild animal because of like a mountain lion. So if you read the question over again, he dismembered them, made his meal, gapping and crunching like a mountain lion. The mountain lion is going back to he, and he is going back to the Cyclops. But the squirming puppies, we're talking about the men that he beat. So that's where a lot of students would choose A as opposed to B. Which tragic flaw does Odysseus display when he calls out to Polyphemus as they are leaving? And heart, not really. It's not really a tragic flaw, but he really doesn't show any heart. Pride is the correct answer. That's going back with his hubris. Generosity, not really, and gratefulness, no. A trick on this one is when you get a question where there are 4 answer choices, or 5, we'll get up to 5 here, by probably second semester. What you're going to want to do is look for, if you really truly don't know the answer, a test-taking hint is look for the one that's different than the others, that has a different feel. So like A, C, and D are all very positive. Heart, generosity, gratefulness. Where pride isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's not in the same realm as heart and generosity and gratefulness. Those are all really good things. I mean, pure and pure. Pride, though, can have two sides. You can be too proud, but you can't really have too much heart. I mean, I suppose technically you could, but typically we don't think of that as being like a bad thing. So pride can be that flaw. Like I said, that's just a little test-taking hint. All right, so let's go to this side. Most students did really well over here on 10, 11, and 13. I asked you guys, you could just skip number 12. But for number 10, and I didn't put an example there because there's so many that you could choose. People chose lots of different quotes. And I mean, there were probably 6 or 7 that I saw quite often in that realm, or that ranged from, when he actually put the spike in the Cyclops' eye to, gosh, there were lots of different things. About how, coming up with the idea of going underneath the sheep. So there are lots of different quotes you could use. The only way you wouldn't get credit for those is if they were completely wrong. I mean, I could not figure out what you're talking about. And I've read it a couple times. I'm like, I don't know where that quote came from. The other way that you wouldn't get the points for this is if you'd only put the line numbers. Now, you do need to have textual evidence. And if you put the line numbers and you got them wrong, come on in and see me and we'll fix it up. But if you just put in the wrong quotes altogether, then probably not this time. For number 11 is both helped and harmed by interfering gods. There are so many to choose from. A lot of people chose the one by when Hermes came and took him away. A lot of people chose the one where Poseidon got mad, and there was a couple from Athena as well. So 11 was a pretty strong question. Not too many people missed that one. And then 13 emerges victorious from perilous situations. First, you have to know what perilous meant. And so a lot of you guys looked it up, so nice job. And a lot of people chose the quote where he actually left the Cyclops Island. Other people chose where, if they didn't choose the killing or the blinding of the Cyclops for number 10, they chose that one for number 13. So I wasn't worried about 10 or 13, actually 10, 11, or 13. Those were all real strong. All right, so let's look at this one. All right, let me see if I can do this here. Okay, so the question is, Odysseus has many admirable qualities, but he's not perfect. How does Odysseus show hubris or excessive pride in the Cyclops situation? You must support your answer with textual evidence. And then just as a structure, I said, sentence 1, actually answer the question. Sentence 2, you have supportive textual evidence. And 3 is explain how the textual evidence supports your answer. It says you might start with this quote, so this quote shows that, but you definitely were not limited to that. So let me see what I've got. See if I can do this. Okay, so after Odysseus prevails when defeating Polyphemus, he makes sure to take all of the credit. Okay, so the kid answered the question. Okay, he said to the Cyclops that if ever a mortal man inquire how you were put to shame, then blinded, tell him Odysseus, raider of cities, took your eye. Okay, so perfect. We've got ourselves some textual evidence. And I also want to point out that this is embedded textual evidence, so it flows rather than just a quote stuck in there. And you all will be doing that eventually. So if you didn't do it on this one, make an attempt on the next one, and I'll keep pushing you. So this is the sentence 3. So this is where he says the how. Even though Odysseus' crew pleaded with him, let's see if I can do this. Even though Odysseus' crew pleaded with him to stop yelling at the Cyclops, he continued to show his hubris. So he kept on showing his pride. So explains to him, what was going on, and kind of puts it in context on why that quote's important. But this is the part that took it above and beyond. When he says, by taunting the Cyclops, see if I can do this in orange. By taunting the Cyclops while they were escaping, he only made Polyphemus more upset, which caused him to curse the crew and to throw boulders at the ship. So now we're getting the result. Okay, so the second to the last paragraph, or the second to last sentence in blue, is basically saying, and this is what happened. And then the last one is where I would stop as a reader and go, well, so what? So what was the big deal that they did that? And then Odysseus did that. Well, this writer actually said, this is a result. Now, this is taken from a student response, and then I just kind of tricked it up just a little bit to fit. But anyway, that's the way that goes. And if you have any questions of your quiz, please come on in and see me. But my time is up. Talk to you soon.